So this is the Aventador frame that supports the AC compressor and the alternator, and there is a bearing in here that usually fails with age, and since we've got the whole thing apart, and Larry's going to give it a bash. Moving. That's the old bearing, which we're going to replace with a new one. And that's just a bit of maintenance since we've got it all apart, because it takes us a couple of bashes now and it's done, against taking the whole car apart later, which will go to the car when we assemble it, and you'll see how much work is involved in actually just getting to this. So since we have all this apart, we're replacing all the bits that we need to, including having a good clean up of all the parts and just getting prepared and ready for replacing the camshaft variator, which is why we actually got to this bit. So if we just go backwards a bit, the issue with the Aventador was it was losing power at 4,500 revs every time it hit it, and that was because the variator, the timing variator, the bolts had actually sheared, which are these little guys that actually sheared off, so the variator just wasn't working right, and that's usually how it is. Putting it back together tomorrow when the other variator turns up, so stay tuned. As you can see, these are some of the parts that we're replacing: solenoid control valves, stretch bolts for the camshaft variators, gaskets, seals, rollers, a bunch of rollers here. And one of the reasons we're doing that is because they wear out. So this is an old roller for the belt, and if we look on that side, that looks pretty clean. We'll turn it around and you can see streaks of grease that's actually flown out past the seal. So the seal's worn out and the bearing's worn out, and you can usually shake them and you can hear the bearing rattling. So most important part to change when you're doing this sort of work, replace them. So we've got our new ones here, along with the belt tensioner itself. That's the old one, that's the new one, and there's our new belt. So that ensures that this is now going to at least give us a good 2-3 years of failure-free belt running. So most important maintenance bits. So this is to just prove why we do stuff, so you can make that tour, make some good memories, and not be sitting on the side of the road waiting for a tow truck. So these are camshaft timing variators for the Aventador that we're working on, and one of the problems with it was it would lose power as soon as it hit about 4,000 revs, and a slightly difficult diagnosis, but we've got the right tools. So we went through it remotely from London. I was connected and we were checking it with Alex, and we found what the issue was. The inlet camshaft would not advance the timing. It was just stuck at 0 degrees. So that led us to having a variator problem, and that's exactly what's happened. So the bolts that bolt up the variator together have actually snapped. So the variator was actually doing nothing, so it wouldn't advance or retard. And you can see that here. So these bolts have actually snapped and they're stuck in there. So they've all just broken. And one of the reasons this happens is from a lot of free revving of the engine, where the variator cannot respond quick enough or return, retard, and advance quick enough, so it kind of goes into a limbo. That puts a lot of stress on these bolts and they break. But there are also revisions on these variators. So this one here is the latest one available, which is improved, stronger. So we're going to be replacing the variator and having this Aventador roar on 12 cylinders again and rip up some tarmac. Right, so another job that we're going to tackle on this Aventador while we're replacing the timing variator gears. Those are these gears that were broken that we spoke about in another video. While we're replacing all of that, we're also servicing the AC compressor. Now you're probably wondering why and what's there to service on an AC compressor. So AC compressors run on special AC compressor oil. This is what we've drained out of this particular compressor, This can only be done with the compressor out, so we don't recommend you remove the compressor just for this, but there's other methods of measuring the oil and inducing the oil back into the system through AC machines. So in this case, with this one, while it's all out, we're giving a bit of a refresh, and we've drained out whatever was in the compressor, which is that amount there, which is not a lot, and that is basically through the fill and drain hole up here. So that's where you top up the oil manually when it's on the bench like this. So we tend to do this so we can then correctly measure and add the correct amount of oil before this is fitted back into this frame here, which is where this compressor goes into this drive, which is the belt pulley, and we've just replaced the bearings or bearing that goes in here because they do wear out again, just like the rollers. So that's how this goes in. So before this all goes back together, we'll be putting some special lubricant on the shaft here, and that will then basically bolt up into place here with the correct amount of oil. And at the same time, we will be replacing these belt rollers and the tensioner. So these basically are 3 rollers, and they go in here. So that goes in there. And this is our belt tensioner, which locates with a locator and locks it in place and puts it under tension. So this is spring loaded. We'll get to the spring loaded tension bit once we're actually in the phase of installing the belt. So this assembly is put together in this way, and this roller goes on a different bracket on the engine itself. So that completes the kind of semi-refurbishment of this bit. So we've got a new bearing in here, we've got new rollers here, a new tensioner, and we're going to service the AC compressor. We're going to put some fresh oil in it and assemble the car back together, and we'll share the next process when we get to that. Longest purple yet.